The one thing that I've never been critical or not really that critical of all season long, folks, has been the starting pitching. And today, yet another starting pitching gem, I'll call it a gem, was hurled by Ranger Suarez, but it was for naught. Because if you look at the line that Ranger Suarez put up, and I'm going to give you the line right now real quick, and if I was just to tell you this line without you knowing the game or what happened at the game, if I was to tell you that Ranger Suarez went 7, gave up 3 hits, no runs, no earned runs, no runs at all, 2 walks and 8 strikeouts against the stinking Cincinnati Reds, what would you immediately think when I gave you that line? Phillies probably won like 9-0, right? Well, no, they did not. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to the Phightins Final here on EOP, or the Edge of Philly Sports, with your boy Matty B. And today was one of them frustrating games that have been making me kind of cringe a little bit lately. Another shutout. Phillies were a victim of another shutout today as they struck out 11 more times as a team. They could not produce any runs against the stinking Cincinnati Reds and lost in walk-off fashion in the bottom of the 9th inning, 1-0. Thus kind of wrapping up the little mini 6-game road trip they were on at 3-3, sending them back home to start an 11-game homestand beginning on Friday against the Mets. Maybe the biggest homestand of the season. Reeling a little bit. It's frustrating. It's been frustrating all season long to watch this team's offensive inconsistencies, and today they were on full display for the world to see, or for at least me to see again. And tune of 1-0 to the Reds. Nobody should lose one. I mean, listen, if you lost 15-3 to the Reds, I would accept that better than losing to the Reds 1-0, because there's no way the Cincinnati Reds should be able to shut out a team that's destined for the playoffs or destined for an opportunity to compete for a world championship. And that just should not happen in any dimension. No plane of existence at all. But it happened today for the Phightins. As I mentioned, the Phillies will start they'll get a day off tomorrow, and then they'll return home against the New York Mets for a big, huge 4-game set over the weekend, all part of an 11-game homestand, the longest of the season that the Phillies will embark on starting next week. It'll see the Mets, Pirates, and the Reds again, as they will welcome in those teams over the next 2 weeks or so. By the way, this also is the final day off for the Phillies in the month of August, final scheduled day off for the month of August tomorrow for the Phillies. So a huge part of the schedule and the season about to start here on Friday afternoon. But before we get to that, let's get to this. Let's go over the line today. It's going to take me about 5 seconds, folks. Phillies, no runs on 5 lousy hits. The Reds, 1 run on 6 hits. And how the scoring went down, well, it happened in the 9th inning when Jose Barrero would single in Albert Almora Jr. to make it 1-0, and that would be the walk-off run of the game. But Barrero was up pinch hitting for the lifeless Joey Votto in this situation. And it paid off for the Reds as they were able to walk it off in the bottom of the 9th against the Phillies. And it's really just amazing to me. Offensively for the Phillies, Gene Segura got the call today in the leadoff hole. Leadoff spot. I should have called it a hole. He promptly went over 4. Rhys Hoskins 1 for 3 with a walk. Alec Bohm 1 for 4. JT 0 for 3. Nick 1 for 4. Sosa 0 for 3. Kyle Schwarber came in late as a pinch hitter and fouled out 0 for 1. Bryson Stott just came in as a defensive replacement at one point. Derek Hall 1 for 3. Matt Verling 1 for 3. And Nick Maton 0 for 2. For the Reds, Jonathan India was 1 for 4. And then Lopez, though, was 3 for 4 today. He was left on base a lot. And Barrero was 1 for 4 with the RBI. I guess you can kind of give him the offensive player of the game. On the pitching side, Ranger Suarez, as already mentioned, 7 very strong, effective innings, 3 hits, no runs, 2 walks, 8 strikeouts. David Robertson came in and pitched an inning of 1 hit, 1 strikeout work. And then Sir Anthony gets tagged with the loss as he came on in the 9th, pitched a half inning, gave up 2 hits, 1 run. It was earned. He walked 1 and he struck out 2. Not a good outing for Sir Anthony. On the Red side, Nick Lodel pitched 7 very strong, effective innings, 5 hits, no runs, 2 walks, and struck out 8. Alexis Diaz pitched 2 innings and struck out 3 to attune for the 11 strikeouts that the Phillies had tonight against the Reds. And there you have it, man, 1-0. 1-0 to the stinking Cincinnati Reds. And, I see somebody in the waiting room. Oh, Joe, I totally forgot, man. I'm sorry, brother. I saw that, but I totally forgot. Joe Marks from the Phightins Fanatics. From the Patterson F Fanatics. Joe, what's going on, man? How you doing today?
What is happening, Matty B?
Nothing, man. I saw you say in the chat you wanted to do it. I totally forgot, and I moved right into the show.
No problem. Not a problem. I'm flexible.
No, let's talk about this, Joe. So I mentioned this in the show last week around this time. I believe it was last Thursday when the Phillies got shut out by the Marlins. But before last Thursday, the Phillies hadn't been shut out since June 24th. Since last Thursday, the Phillies have been shut out now 4 times. Is that something that's concerning, Joe, or is that just a product of the injuries, product of the type of pitching we've been coming up against? What do you think that is indicating towards?
It's not indicating anything good, and that's for sure. And I am worried. And yeah, we've had good pitching against us, especially in the Mets series. But however, with Cincinnati, you needed to sweep them, and not just because they're Cincinnati, but because you're trying to make headway. And right now, the Braves and the Mets played today. I mean, this is the other part of that equation that me and you, with our theory of them winning the division, that's part of the equation, is that these guys inevitably would have to beat up on each other, and eventually that's going to cost one of those teams a game. But when you don't get it done against a kid that he hasn't had a lot of experience in the majors. This is, it's discontent disheartening because I feel like in some ways the Phillies are reverting a little bit back to their May play, the way that they played in May, very inconsistent, very vanilla. I think you would have to do some digging, but it's been a while since Cincinnati had a pitching duel. I mean, that park is a launching pad, and you had a 1-0 game.
Yeah, and you mentioned the Braves and the Mets going at it all weekend. For the most part, well, absolutely for the most part, the Braves have been doing what we needed them to do. They've been beating the Mets. They've taken the first 2 games of that set. Game 3 is tonight. Max Scherzer will be pitching for the Mets, and Game 4 will be tomorrow. The Phillies had an opportunity, Joe, if they would have handled their own business, to potentially start the game on Friday, 8 games out of first. Now we need some major help. Now we're currently with the half game that we now lost so far today. We are now back to 10 games out of first. But we need the Braves to continue to help us out. Maybe we get it back down to 9 games. So, an opportunity missed by the Phillies as they really didn't handle their own business today. And you mentioned the pitching duel. I don't know the way the Reds have been, especially this year. I don't think there's been any pitching duels this year. It's very frustrating, and the way they're going about their business over, especially in this game. They struck out 11 more times today. They left 6 more runners on base, 3 more in scoring position with 2 outs. By the way, now they have gone over 400 for the season on that category. That's up to almost 4 runners a game in scoring position with two outs. A stat that's cost them games. It says bottom line, it's cost them games this year, Joe.
No, you're absolutely right. And this, for anybody who's new to this program, Matt, you've said that all season, and you've been preaching it from the mountaintops. And when you say those numbers, it just, like, I can't help but just put my head in my hands and go, man, it's such a valid point that when you leave runs on the board, when you leave those kinds of runs on the board, you leave victories on the table. And at this point, that is a big problem, especially if you're going into September. And, I know with the cavalry on its way with Bryce Harper, that's great. And Schwarber possibly coming back on Friday, that's fantastic. But if you can't get consistency from your lineup, game in and game out, coming down the stretch, this is going to get really hairy towards the end. And, runners in scoring position, those strikeouts, like I said, Matt, that reminds me a lot of May. It reminds me a lot of our conversations we had in May.
Yeah, it does, and it's disheartening because of the way they're doing it. They get the first 2 runners on, you got something cooking first and second and third, no outs, and then you get a strikeout, you get a pop up, you get a foul out, you get a soft weak liner or ground ball or first, and it ends the inning. It's just very disheartening to watch the runners get on, but then just be stranded there. And it seems to be the same people getting on versus the same people being stranded. You got the Alec Bohms and you got the Bryson Stotts. Now you add Gene Segura to the mix, getting on, but JT, Castellanos, Rhys Hoskins are not doing their job of getting these runs in. And I hate to kind of key on those individuals, but that's what they're brought here to do. Drive in runs, hit home runs, whatever you want to call, score runs, and they're not doing it. And it's August, and we're still very healthy, very much alive in the playoff hunt. This weekend is going to go a huge, long way in determining whether or not the division is a reality. But they got to clean that stat up. They got to clean the runners left on base stat up. Got to reduce it by half. The strikeouts a game is out of control. It's up to about 8.5 a game. They're averaging about 8.5 strikeouts a game. That's got to come down by at least half. They can't play this type of baseball in October.
So out of 27 outs, you're saying by that stat that in 27 outs in a baseball game, they're basically narrowing themselves down with the strikeouts down to like 19.
Yeah, they're averaging 8.2 strikeouts a game. So 8. Let's call it 8 strikeouts a game.
Yeah. So I mean that's not good. No. if you're limiting even your opportunities, that's one thing. When you're limiting the opponent's workload that they have to do in order to win a game by narrowing the amount of outs they really have to earn, that's a whole other thing.
Yeah, I mean, you literally go through everybody in the lineup with the exception of maybe your ninth hitter, and everybody strikes out. It's basically a pass to the third inning if you look at it from a baseball strategic standpoint. It's a pass to the third inning because it takes typically 2 innings to go through the lineup. It's a very, very, very discouraging stat.
Well, I mean, and I kind of go back. This is one of the reasons why I led off with saying about how inconsistent this team has been in the last 5 or 6 days, and because you go night and day. You go from Rhys Hoskins having 2 home runs and Nick Castellanos hitting home run. Those guys that you mentioned that should be doing it or are part of that crew that should be doing it did it yesterday. And then today you come in still in the same ballpark, still with the same kind of should be in the same kind of mentality, and yet you put up a 0. And I get it. You come up with these games every once in a while in Major League Baseball, but again, I can't help but just kind of hammer down your point that this is what these guys got brought in for. And, when the young kids are actually playing beyond their potential right now, and the guys that got brought in to finish close the door and finish the job are underperforming. And I know that's hard to say when those guys home run yesterday, but that's why I prefaced like inconsistency, because you got to have more than just a 2 home run game and then go on a 0-22 drought.
Yeah, and as I mentioned, the shutouts are really disturbing too. They hadn't been shut out since June 24th, and now 4 inside of a week, not even a week, 6 days. So that's not very encouraging. And then let's look at the injury standpoint. Obviously, yesterday Brandon Marsh went down with that injury out there in the outfield. They're still waiting, I guess, on the results of the MRI, and I haven't heard any updates about that. But they're scouring the system for some depth at center field. Their top prospect was that Simon Mazzotti, the kid that's been up and down a couple times. He's out for the season with an injury, so he got hurt in AAA like last week. He's done for the year. Obviously with the trade of Mickey Moniak, involving Moniak gone, not for Marsh per se, but he's gone and Marsh is here. Lugo Herrera there, Joe Marks. Is that somebody who might be returning here very soon? Or do we just bite the bullet on that?
I know that Al is on vacation, and I am not going to bring back Odubel Herrera to give Al a heart attack because he might go apoplectic when he goes on the air next. I mean, that is kind of the unfortunate thing. Listen, there has to be someone that Dabrowski can like maybe call in the retirement home. Maybe we can get like a Torrey Hunter. Maybe, we just drafted Carl Crawford's son. Maybe Carl can lay some back up again. He played center field. Like, I don't know what to tell you at this point, but a double is definitely not your answer. Especially if we have to revitalize this team for consistency, a double Herrera might as well be the poster boy for inconsistency.
No, absolutely. Poster boy. I mean, he's the definition of it, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But so there's an outfielder that's currently in Double A. His name is Johan Rojas. He was he's the fifth prospect in the Phillies system. He's a center fielder. He was one of the players that was deemed to be off limits during the trade deadline. He's in Double A right now. He just got to Double A about a month ago. If we're just looking for someone to kind of hold down the place card or get a spot on the bench, maybe to use as a pinch runner or potential defensive replacement, why not bring him up? Give him a taste of what it's like in the big leagues, and we'll go from there. I would hedge on that option rather than bringing Herrera back.
If you're Dabrowski, you have to ask yourself this question: bringing these guys up that barely anyone really thought was going to make as much noise as they have, Derek Halls, Matt Vierling, Bryson Stott, and Alec Baum, and Sosa, even with the trade. You have all these young guys. Bringing this guy up is I'm sorry, I missed one big young guy, and that's Stubbs. But bringing up this guy Rojas, I mean, if you're Dabrowski, you roll the dice because you still haven't crapped out yet with a young guy that you've brought up this year. So roll the dice again, and if anything, it either shows that this kid is definitely not ready for it, which is fine, because that kid was probably going to get brought up anyhow, because we're going to have September call-ups in like 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. So he would have been probably brought up anyhow. So bring him up a little earlier and give him a little bit more exposure.
I don't know if he would have made it to the majors. They would have moved him up to AAA maybe, but no, I agree with you though. I listen, the hell with it. Bring him up. He's the fifth rated prospect in the system. He's in AA right now. He's seeing kind of major league pitching right now. Yeah, why not give it a shot? It's not like it's a permanent thing. It's just to kind of hold down the fort until we can figure out what's going on with Marsh. So if Marsh's injury is long term, that's a different situation. But if Marsh's injury is a 15 IL or 10-day IL, that's something we can work with. But if we're talking like 60-day and he's done for the year, obviously they're going to have to go a different route there. But yeah, I mean, if it's a short-term injury, why not give him an opportunity? I agree.
I mean, listen, Dabrowski hasn't crapped out yet, and my feeling is Nick Maton is not your answer. I mean, I understand where people like I heard Nick Maton and I heard Sosa, and I mean, probably one of the positives that you could take too, at least in the short term, is that Schwarber could be back by Friday. That's the reports right now. So you're going to have him back in the outfield. You're going to have Castellanos back there. Maybe you put Vierling out there for a couple days. But just until you get the news, because we're going to get the news for Marsh by the end of today or early tomorrow. So you'll know before Friday what you're really going to need to do. But again, Dabrowski hasn't crapped out, so you got to give him the benefit of the doubt. Like, if he's holding on to these guys, he's holding on to them for a reason.
So here's my other thing about that. And it all factors in with the injury situation. This is definitely the outfield, which was not that deep to begin with, has been hit hard by injuries. I mean, now it's the third outfielder basically down. That's a lot for any team to deal with. I mean, that's literally 3/4 of your starting outfield has now been gone. And the one position that we haven't really got hurt, I mean, well, left field, right field, center field. Center fielder was not stable to begin with, and then we lost the left fielder and right fielder. So it's not been easy to navigate through that. But Matt Vierling's bat needs to be not involved in any games. I've had enough of watching Matt Vierling bat for a while. It's an extremely frustrating event. He is a plus side defender, but I really can't watch him bat anymore. He's come up small in about 3 straight situations with runners on base. Once in the Marlins series, a couple times in the Mets series, I think a couple times in this series, he just come up pretty small when it counted. I don't know what we do if Marsh's injury is a long-term injury, because Kyle Schwarber, he's not back in the outfield right now because he probably can't play the outfield. He can probably hit. He could probably DH, but he can't play, and that's a concern because we need him to actually play outfield now. I mean, that's where we're down to.
Well, I mean, even in the other game when he pinched hit, I think Rob Thompson said, if you get a hit, like don't run hard, like, and Kyle's a competitor. He's a guy that's always a concern, that when you're under fire and you're in that competitive zone, you just go and you don't think about it. And I think Rob Thompson was worried about that. So I agree with you. Like, I think he'll be put in the DH. However, I don't think he'll be there for the rest of the season. I think once Bryce comes up, they will evaluate which one is healthier to go out there in the outfield and then go from there. But, I mean, even with what Marsh's injury, at least preliminarily speaking, it doesn't seem to be something that serious.
Yeah, and that's good. And as I said, that support's given Rojas maybe an opportunity to come up. And I mean, they got the Mets, but then they got the Reds and Pirates coming up behind the Mets. Why not give them an opportunity to see some of that? I mean, the Reds are about a AAA team, so I mean, they're not that far off of what Rojas is dealing with on a daily basis. So I don't know. I say give them an opportunity. All right, Joe, let's take a look around Major League Baseball right now, because there are some games underway, and there's obviously some games tonight. Some games that mean a lot to the Phillies. The Padres are currently taking it to the Marlins 5-1. They're in the bottom of the third, or headed to the bottom of the third out there in Miami. The Braves and Mets, as mentioned, go at it tonight, 7:20. Max Scherzer against Jake Ordonez out there. It's a critical game for the Phillies and for the Braves. The Cardinals are home against the Rockies later on tonight as well. Dodgers are on the road against Milwaukee later on this evening, and the Arizona Diamondbacks later on tonight are in San Francisco to take on the Giants. And we mentioned the Phillies losing 1-0 to the Reds. So kind of relegated now to scoreboard watching over the next couple of days as we try to hopefully get some more help from the Braves and Padres, who, obviously can't do nothing much more about that right now. But
are the Padres... have they settled down in your mind? Because remember after the trade deadline, and I get that Tatis isn't there, but have they settled back down with Soto there? And are they starting to gel? Like, do you have confidence in this team going forward? Or do you feel like this is more of, let's see what we get with house money and bank on next year?
So they're definitely that's not what the management of the San Diego Padres is trying to do. They want to. They're not banking on next year. They're all in for this year. So they're going to be a team that I think they settled down. I think they're going to be a team that's going to be in it to the very end of this. They're one of the problems the reason why they made the playoffs last year was because they were beset with injuries and they lost their entire pitching rotation in the second half. They don't have that issue right now, and they've plussed up their offense. Yeah, Tatis gone for the rest of the season hurts them, but it's not like he's been there all year, and they got to learn to live with that. I mean, they've been living with that up to this point. So now the Padres are a legit team. They have settled down, in my opinion. Yeah.
Okay. And I mean, you were absolutely right as you were going through those scoreboards for what games are upcoming. That almost magnifies what this loss to the Phillies really means, because the Diamondbacks and the Giants and are trying to chase in the wild card. Then you have the Dodgers and Milwaukee, and Milwaukee, I believe, is ahead of us in the wild card. And you have the Braves and the Mets, and of course that's an understanding of like what we need from them, and then the Padres. Yeah, I feel like the Cardinals, they're still in the hunt, but I feel like they're just holding on with fingertips. And I worry more about the Giants, because if we remember last year, they got really hot at the end. And I feel like if they just kind of bottle that from last year and whip it out this year in September, it could get really, really interesting in the West.
Yeah, it could. It could get interesting in the West. I mean, right now the division in the West, the Dodgers are running away with it. I mean, they're up by 17 games.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to be caught. But as far as the wild card goes, Milwaukee's actually on the outside looking in right now, Joe. They're a game behind the Padres, who are 2 games behind us. So, and San Francisco was 4.5 behind us, or behind San Diego for the 3rd spot. The team's basically in the hunt right now in the National League. It's really the Braves, Phillies, Padres, Brewers, and Giants. They're the ones really kind of fighting for those wild card spots. St. Louis and Milwaukee is kind of going back and forth a little bit in the NL Central. One team is in first place this week, the other one's there next week. So, but we are definitely we are definitely very alive in this. If we don't make the playoffs, Joe, something bad went down, something epically broke down deep, and that would make for a very, very, very painful offseason, because I don't see the Phillies missing the playoffs this year. I just want them to win the division, but I don't know if that's going to happen. So.
Well, there was something that was said that I had heard not that long ago, and it gives a little bit of optimism for not just this year, but especially what happens in the offseason and what's going to happen in the coming years. This is just the beginning. Like, you got Schwarber, Castellanos, and Harper. You got some of these youth guys for a bit. Yeah, okay, Reese is going to – I still feel like Reese is going to be moved but in the offseason. I really do. I think there's no way you're going to pay Reese Hoskins over $20 million a year. There's just no conceivable way. I think they would rather take their chances with Derek Hall or JT at first, especially the way that Stubbs has played, and make other moves at more relevant positions. Starting pitcher, outfield, getting more depth there. And that's gonna be important to kind of understand if you're a Phillies fan right now. It's exciting because we're in the playoff hunt. I don't know if I'd be as depressed if they missed the playoffs this year. I'd be surprised. I'd be shocked. But I wouldn't be as disappointed because I feel like Dabrowski's just warming up. And he's proven to me, at least, that he makes quality trades, not necessarily quantity trades.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. And we got a lot of baseball left to play this season. Mm-hmm. Joe, let's look a little bit out. Let's look till Friday. And you mentioned it's been on my mind all season long since I saw it initially. And then it got even deeper in my mind when I realized that there was going to be a double header sandwich into that series because they had to make up from April. But we're going to welcome the Mets back this weekend, this time in our building. 4 games in 3 days starting on Friday. Phillies are going to go with Aaron Nola on Friday against Chris Bassett. The doubleheader on Saturday is a 1 o'clock and a 7 o'clock start. No pitchers have been announced for that game at all. And I want to ask you this because I was asking, I think it was, who the hell was I talking to earlier? I was talking to somebody earlier in the week, and I was asking him the same question. I was Al, actually. It was Al. When you look at the potential of the importance that this doubleheader may have, the line to start on Saturday on regular days rest is Wheeler. Mm-hmm. No, actually, he's in line to start with one day extra rest on Saturday as Wheeler. Also in line to start on Saturday with regular rest is Syndergaard, because we have the off day tomorrow. So, do you go ahead and start Wheeler, Syndergaard in that doubleheader, or do you go Wheeler, or you go Syndergaard? What do? You start both of them, or you're going to bullpen game one of them? Are we at that stage of the season where it's time to go all in and do that? Because everybody else is lined up fine, because on Sunday it would be Kyle Gibson on regular rest because of the day off Friday or Thursday. So everything is lined up. It's not a matter of someone's going to go on short rest. How would you go about pitching this weekend?
Well, let's take the bullpen game off the table because it's a ridiculous notion to begin with as far as it actually existing in the Major League Baseball. Second, I would say I would start Wheeler on the 1 o'clock game because especially if you were to win Friday, then you go up two games on the Mets. the worst then at that point would be a split, but you obviously want to, you know, you want to feed as much as you can off the Mets. So if Wheeler can get, if you go 1-2 with Aaron and Wheeler, the Friday and the 1 o'clock game on Saturday, then Syndergaard can realistically should be able to handle the 7 o'clock, like you said. It would be off of his normal rest.
Yep.
And the only thing that I kind of get a little bit antsy about is Wheeler looked a little shaky. Well, no, not a little. Let me back up. He looked a lot shaky in New York. And I don't know if it was because he just was, his pitches weren't hitting his spots, or the ump was calling him too tight. I don't know. But we can't afford to have that guy come out and pitch at that 1 o'clock game. We have to have him shut the door.
Right.
And, you know, I'm confident in these pitchers, honestly. And I feel like it's blasphemy for saying that, because in the beginning of the season, I'm not sure if I would have been able to be confident in saying that. But now I'm saying it in August, in mid-August. I'm saying I'm confident in these starting pitchers. My confidence is a little shaky in the consistency of our bats. If our bats are giving us consistent offense, I really feel like this team has a potential to take 3 or 4, if not sweep this series.
Yep. And then the Mets would be put in a position on Saturday night in the second game to potentially go to a bullpen game, because they're not coming off a day off. They're playing games all the way through. So there is no day off. No one's getting reset. So they're going to have to either go early with one of their starters to pitch on a 4th day of rest, or throw together a bullpen-like game for the Saturday night game against Syndergaard. So would you maybe hold Wheeler to the Saturday night game and pitch Syndergaard on the Saturday day game? I mean, there's some options, I guess, that Thompson's going to have to look into based on what the Mets are going to do. But one of those games,
we also have to keep in mind like what the Mets lineup looks like, because Thompson is a big proponent on doing well with matchups. He wants to put his pitchers in the right position. Hence, you know, today with Ranger, there was a reason why Joey Votto wasn't in the lineup, because, you know, he hasn't hit well, period, but he doesn't hit well off of lefties either. But Rob Thompson knows how to work different matchups, especially with pitchers to lineups. So especially with a day-night doubleheader like that is, I'm sure Rob's going to wait. He's got both chips in his hand, both the Wheeler chip and the Syndergaard chip. Both will be ready, and he will look at see what that lineup looks like for the Mets, and then make a decision from that. I honestly think, though, if the Mets did a bullpen game on Saturday, whether it was the day or the night, we do know one thing. We know Max and we know DeGrom are not going to pitch this series. They're going to miss this series, which is fortunate for the Phillies, because they could honestly feast. Now, listen, Bassett and the other pitchers, and then Taijuan Walker also just went down. Yep. So they're very much shorthanded in the starting pitcher rotation.
Yep.
So I think you could go either or, honestly, but I would lead with Wheeler only because I want them to be down 2-0. I want the Mets to be down 2-0 in the series before the Saturday night. And I want them to feel a little bit more pressure, because when you're down 2-0 and you know that like things haven't been working well with you, sometimes you press. And sometimes, especially in the Mets history, when they press, they met.
That is true, and let's hope that is what happens. All right, Joe, let's wrap things up. Let's pay some bills. Here's the schedule on EOP this week. It's this is kind of a generic slide. We're in the process of getting things kind of reorganized, adding some more shows. Just take a look through here. Remember some of the things tonight. Pressbox Radio is at 7. EOP Live also will be at 8:30. And then tomorrow, got Birds IQ podcast. What is that? The Round Mound at 8 o'clock, which is a Sixers talk show. And then the Attack of the Third, which is the Union. And then, of course, I will not be back until Friday night after the Phillies and Mets game. And I think I'm going to be in studio for that one there. Joe Marks. What do you think about that? I might be actually in studio Friday night for the post game show. So. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I'm gonna check out my new office. But if you guys are having a good time out there, and you should be, and things they don't go so good, don't forget Dave Cherry, workman's comp, motor vehicle, accidents, personal law, criminal law, personal injury law, and criminal law at 610-565-0300. Don't forget Phillies sports trips as well. The DC trip is filling up bad or filling up a lot, but I'm sure they'll accommodate if they have to. It's a good deal. Go head over there and check out what they have to offer. Joe, it's been an honor and privilege for you checking back in with me, man. Here's to a better weekend of baseball than we had last week. There's a series sweep against the Mets, and let's keep the hopes of the division championship alive. What do you say, man?
I love the theory. I love it. I want to get there, and I want to be in our glory.
I agree. So until we see each other again, guys, take care. Go Phils. We'll see you Friday night.
Later.